The U.S. men's national team is back in the Olympics and also qualified to the U-20 World Cup. And today we have an exclusive interview with Antonio Carrera, that was the backup goalkeeper of Chris Brady and played 2 games throughout the tournament, to talk about the overall experience, plus goalkeeping development, FC Dallas Academy, L3 versus United States, as he is a Mexican-American dual national, and much more. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to another exclusive interview with Antonio Carrera, the goalkeeper and brother of Nico Carrera that we had here on the channel, so you can check out that interview as well. Don't forget to smash the like button if you haven't already, as I will not be requesting during the interview. And yes, we'll be talking a lot about the U.S. men's national team U-20 CONCACAF Championship that the United States just won and returned to the Olympics that will be played in 2024. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, everyone, we're back here today with another Carrera. We had Nico, now we have Antonio, goalkeeper for FC Dallas, also U-20 U.S. men's national team goalkeeper as well, that just played in the CONCACAF U-20 Championship, won the trophy with the team, and qualified the Olympics and U-20 World Cup. Antonio, welcome to the channel.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I saw the interview you guys did with my brother, and it was amazing, so I'm glad to be here.
Better hair than Nico?
Oh, 100%. He's jealous of it too. I know it.
Yeah, we'll convince him one day to grow his hair like you, but but that's something. We'll bring both of you along and have that little talk about the haircut. He has that very short haircut. Maybe we can talk about that soon too. But Antonio, we're gonna start with one topic that I think I haven't had any player from that team since you all qualified to the Olympics. I've had some before. I had Cade here in the channel. Caden, he was here in the channel too. He was in the team. But you're the first one after. So there's a lot of questions of what happened there, because the tournament even seemed a little bit easy at times for the United States. Not so much for Mexico, though. But in terms of that, the United States, you guys strolled through. You guys arrived in camp, I believe, 10 days prior. Why don't you just talk a little about the overall experience of being there? How was the preparation during camp? And what made it look so easy, too?
I think going back to the last thing you said, what made it look so easy was that our head coach. You know, Mikey Varas is a great coach, and we haven't just been preparing for this tournament the 10 days prior of the tournament starting, but since November, since the U-20 cycle started. You know, with all the players, whether you were in the camp or you were out, he always stated to you, you know, we're here for the qualifiers that are in June. We're here for that. We're here to win that, qualify for the World Cup. After the World Cup, we can focus on the Olympics, and then obviously the cherry on top, which is the gold medal. So I think that's what made it look so easy, even though you can tell great teams like Mexico, you know, like Honduras, like El Salvador, didn't make it as far because it's a hard tournament. You can never underestimate the teams in CONCACAF.
I have a question for you too about this, because this was almost like a theory from my end about this. Obviously, the goalkeeping position, which we're going to talk about later in this interview, it takes longer for players to develop than field, right? Goalkeepers really they peak later. It takes much longer, and it's very rare to see goalkeepers start for a professional team at age 23 or lower, right? They start to break out at that age. But this United States team, at least in the field, right, the field players, center backs, midfielders, forwards, had so much more professional experience than the opponents we had, right? I saw some statistics that this United States team that you're a part of, all of you combined, had over 30,000 professional minutes. The second team that had the most was 15,000, and I think it was Canada. And then after that, it just goes lower and lower. How much from your end, and I know you're still going through the process of going to the senior level, how much you think that played a role too? I think it did, but I didn't live that.
Yeah, it's something that obviously helps, you know, because whenever you're playing in the professional environment, you're not just playing, but training every day in that professional environment. It gets you prepared for for tournaments like this, like these, when it's against top teams from CONCACAF, where it's live or die. You lose a game, you're out. And I think getting that many minutes in the professional environment and training in that environment is definitely something that helped us when the time came to play.
Now, I do want to talk about the Costa Rica game. There was a massive fight that broke out. You actually got someone hit you from behind too. They hit your back. I believe the player got suspended. We're gonna go through that in
Yeah.
a second. Before we go to that topic, I wanted to ask you one thing. The tournament was played at Honduras, right? Um, most games were most games had no one on the stands, just to put it that way, right? It looked like it was even closed doors. But you all faced Honduras in the semifinals in a packed stadium, pretty much. At least 90% of it was full. Uh, how was that experience for the player? Were the players nervous before that? Because there's this thing for at least the senior level that we keep talking about how tough it is to play away in CONCACAF. The fans are hostile. The field is bad, but we saw a team that really didn't seem to care about that. You guys, at least you guys didn't. Was there any worry about that, or the mentality was fine the entire time?
Yeah, it was ice cold. I think I think it goes back to not just how we are as players, but against again the coach Mikey Varas. He always told us, we come out, we're ice cold in the veins, we're fire, but we're ice cold in the veins. Whenever the moment gets that there's 20,000 fans from the other team that don't just want you to lose, but almost want to kill you. They were throwing
Mhm.
stuff on the field, waters, everything, and you have to find a moment of calmness where it's just you and the ball, you and 11 other players from your team and 11 players from the other team on the field. A sense of calmness for 90 plus minutes, so that at the end of the game you can go into the locker room and celebrate and enjoy the victory as we did.
So we can win away in CONCACAF.
Yes, yes. It's oh, also back to the experience. It was amazing. I loved it at least, and I'm
Mhm.
positive that the rest of the boys also loved it. We came out on the field even since we started warming up. All the fans were booing at us. Making hand signs, doing everything. Everything to distract us and try to get into our minds. But we all just smiled at them and just enjoyed the moment. It's beautiful to play against 20,000 fans that hate you. It's a beautiful moment.
In this U20 team that we had there, uh, who was the feistiest player we had in this team in your opinion? Who seemed more fired up for that experience of playing against the host nation that you can remember?
It's hard to single out only one player. I think like it sounds almost cliche, but the whole team was really excited for the moment, and it also something that added into the excitement and to the want to play. Like that was the game to qualify for the Olympics.
Hmm.
Something that the U.S. hadn't done since
Three,
2008. Yeah,
yeah,
three
three
cycles.
cycles.
And so, an added motivation was that the last time that the U.S. tried to qualify for the Olympics, the country that knocked us out was Honduras.
Hmm. I
So it
remember that
was,
game. I remember that game.
yeah. So it
Oh,
was added motivation. I can't really single out only one player that wanted to wanted to play that game or was feisty for that moment. I think it was all of us.
who in this group, or including even yourself, you talked about the importance of Coach Varas and everything he's done for the program there, and how he knows how to get you guys motivated, focused, and get the best out of the players. But were there any two or three players or one player that the team really looked up to in terms of leadership? Was there any guy that stood out? Not from a skill set standpoint. You all bring different skills, but from a leadership standpoint, was did this team have one guy or two guys?
Yeah, we had our leadership circle, which was
Mhm.
Mauricio Cuevas, plays in Belgium and Peru.
Mhm.
Daniel Edelman, he was we called him Cappy. He plays at Red Bulls. We had Paxton Aronson, Philadelphia, and we had Kid and Clark, Red Bulls as well. It was just a tight knit group of leadership players who took that role onto them for the whole 28 days, and they were great leaders. And I think it showed in the games. And you you guys couldn't see the moments off the field, but off the field we really were like brothers.
Well, Paxton, I'm surprised you mentioned him. You see in the game, Caden, Danny Edelman. Also, you could see it a lot of the times. Mauricio Cuevas, but Paxton seemed like a very shy kid, right? I didn't know he was part of the main leadership of this team. I didn't know that. That's something that we learn. That's, I guess, it's an extra skill and something that even reminds me a little bit of his older brother, right, Brendan. You see how he's fired up, always trying to lead and push the team forward. But Antonio, let's go to one thing here. What the heck happened with Costa Rica, man? What was that? Why did that fight start? When you got hit, you got hit in the back? Cade Cowell was in the fight. Cade Cowell got suspended. Um, well, you guys, we defeated Costa Rica, no question there. But what the heck happened at the end of that game?
No, it was something that nobody, none of the coaches, none of the staff, none of the players expected for it to occur. It's a World Cup qualifying game, and the CONCACAF, you wouldn't expect a brawl to spread out and to occur at the final minutes of the game. For me, I don't know why I got hit. I really didn't do anything to get hit. I was just celebrating with my brother's qualification for the U20 World Cup when out of nowhere I just felt a sharp hit in my back, and I said, "Oh my!" I was on, obviously hit me pretty hard. I was on the ground. I said, I was like, I was shocked. I was, what just happened? And I look around and I see Cade Cowell's getting ganged up by three Costa Ricans. Paxton Aaronson's getting chased down by another one. Marcus Bragnes is also getting chased. A couple of our players are getting chased down. I was shocked. Luckily though, I did get lucky because I had my gloves back here. Because as a goalie, you put your gloves back there so you don't have to carry them. And so whenever the guy came to hit me, he actually hit my gloves and not my back straight on. So that's why I think I got lucky. I could have been really badly hurt, but
Yeah, especially a knee to the back. If you're 18 right now, so in 2014 you were 10. Neymar got hit on the back in that World Cup, and it took him out of the World Cup.
yeah,
He
no,
got
I mean,
so that. But did anyone figure out why the Costa Rican players were so pissed off?
no, I mean, since before the game, you could tell they had extra motivation. It's also another thing that adds to it is that's their livelihood. Not saying that the Americans, we don't need this to survive exactly. I mean, we do because we love it. It's our passion. It's our whole lives. But some of these guys, my brother said it in the
Yeah.
last episode. Some of these guys, that's the only way they can support their family. Their
Your your
family,
brother
everything.
talked about that when he compared when he played for the Pachuca Academy and when he played for FC Dallas. He talked about how quality level he saw a lot of similarities, but like in Mexico, sometimes Brazil, South American countries, for some of these kids, it's almost like existential. It's their way out of poverty sometimes. In the U.S., um, we're privileged enough here and lucky enough here in the US that we don't have these problems in our country. So playing soccer is not your way out of poverty. It's your choice. If I want to be a professional soccer player, if not, you can find different routes for your life, different opportunities. But yeah, he talked about this when he played for Pachuca. He talked about the main difference. You didn't play for Pachuca, did you? Did you go there too?
No, no, no,
No.
no. I was born there, but I never played there like him. Yeah.
But okay, so we're going to move on here in the interview. Congratulations again for helping the United States get back to the Olympics and the U20 World Cup. And hopefully you get to participate on those two tournaments as well. One being next year in 2023, the World Cup, and the Olympics, obviously, in Paris in 2024. So, next one is this. I want to talk about something I talked with your brother as well, and I'm probably going to be somewhat similar. It's about you both growing up in the United States, and also there's in a Mexican household, right? Your parents, at least your dad, with Mexican ties. What I want to ask you is this. Obviously, I'm not going to go to that question of going, hey, you're going to play for the U.S. or Mexico. I'm not going to ask that, okay? Especially because you just played for the U.S. You're provisionally cap tied now. But regardless of that, you yourself, Antonio, you didn't go to Pachuca just like your brother, so you didn't really live there. Did you ever live in Mexico?
Yes, from I was very little though. Ages 0 to 4.
So less
But
than Nico, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Nico 0 to 6. 0 to 4.
And then Nico returned for I think a year that he said with Pachuca. Um, you growing up in your house, did was there, because I grew up in my house with my dad and a lot of like Brazilian soccer. Was it very Liga MX heavy on your household?
Um, Obviously, when I was very little, yes, because
Hmm.
my the parents moved when they were 33, 34, so their whole life had been just 33, 34 years of living in Mexico. So of course that was the only thing they knew. But as we both grew up, as we grew as a family, because I grew up here in the States. I lived here since I was 4 years old, and as the time went on, European soccer obviously came in. Liga MX also stayed, and then MLS came into our lives, and so now it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and based on your experience, which clearly your experience is more in the US than in Mexico or in any other country right now, your brother, we were still able to talk, I believe, a little bit about Germany too, because he has that experience in Mexico, US, and now he's been in Germany for what, 2 years, 3 years? Uh,
Almost 3 years.
Almost three, yeah, because he said it was like right at the pandemic. So that
Yeah.
uh what do you see as positives or negatives between soccer culture, okay, of Mexico and the United States from your experience, maybe with your family, maybe from visiting Mexico and living it in the United States intensely as you do?
Yeah, I feel like in Mexico, especially when I was younger, Mexico has just been just pure soccer, pure football. And in the States, obviously, there's basketball, there's football, there's baseball, and there's soccer. So growing up, it's very different. When I would go to Mexico, everywhere in the streets, in the parks, I would just see soccer, soccer, soccer. But here, it's all different types of sports, a different variety of sports. Not to say that there's anything bad with that, because obviously, the U.S. soccer system is amazing right now. So is the Mexican soccer system. Yeah, it's just two very different cultures, especially when you're little, when you're growing up, what type of sports you see around you. And at the end of the day, we became soccer players because it runs through our blood. We're Mexican Americans, so we have that Mexican side of us and the American side of us. But not just soccer, because we also grew up playing baseball. So
Oh,
we're
you guys almost went to baseball?
me and my brother did. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were pretty good pitchers. So careful.
Well, it helps being a goalkeeper too, which leads me to the next question here. Before we move on for this, you've been with the U.S. youth teams. Have you ever been contacted also by the Mexican Federation, maybe for a youth camp? Has that ever happened so far?
I have not been contacted to a Mexican youth camp,
So
and
far,
especially so far,
yeah.
and
So,
yeah, just US has given me so far more opportunities in the youth system.
mhm. So moving on here now to Dallas Academy, which I'm not going to go much into the FC Dallas Academy because it seems like this academy is producing so many professional players. I've had Chris Richards here talk about it, Jonathan Gomez talk about it, Tanner Tessman talk about it. Your brother talked a little bit about it. Who else did I have? I had more players, so many players. Christian Kappas, so many players that talked about the FC Dallas Academy. Justin Che. Um, so back to you. You're a goalkeeper from the FC Dallas Academy, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about goalkeeper development, right? Um, Back in the day, probably by back in the day, I say like maybe 20 years ago, maybe before you were born, actually. Goalkeepers were more just, no one cared if they were good with their feet. They just had to be shot stoppers. If you go back to the 90s, of course, one goalkeeper or another would still be technical, but it was never really a primary focus on development. Now, in FC Dallas's academy, how much is that a focus from your end or the coaches there? Is there a requirement almost for you guys to work on your technical ability and distribution, first touch? How important is that scene? I'm not going to ask about shot stopping because that's obvious, right? You need to be a shot. That's your
Yeah,
number one job. But how much is the FC Dallas working academy working on your ability with your feet as a goalkeeper?
yeah, they teach it to the younglings, and when I was very young, they always taught us that you have to be a soccer player before you can be a goalkeeper. It's not just 10 players on the field plus the goalkeeper; it's 11 players. And if we can't play with our feet in the bag, then what good are we to our team in the possession? We're just almost a liability. You know, since we were very little, they always taught us that we have to be good with our feet. We have to be calm with our feet. We have to trust in our ability with our feet. That way, we can help our team building out. If we're in danger or anything, we can help the team build out or come out of any situation that we're presented.
Hmm. And how would you? Because we got in the so the games you played in the U20s, and that's the only time I actually watched you, right? Because it's hard to have access to academy games or even other. But the game you played was the Saint Kitts and Nevis, which you were kind of on vacation on that game. The U.S. just completely dominated possession, everything, and then you came in towards the end of the final. Um, how is your ability on the ball with your feet? Because I heard from Nico that you're a goalkeeper. There's also a younger brother, right? That's a goalkeeper, and
Yeah.
your sister is a goalkeeper, right?
Sister's a center back slash midfielder, but yeah,
Okay, so
we're
she
all
plays field.
yes,
Yeah. So, but you have a younger brother that's also a goalkeeper.
yes. Oh, he's good too. I promise. He's gonna be one to look for. You know, he's very dangerous. He's maybe
How
even
old is
better than
he?
me in a couple of years.
How old is he?
12.
12. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always beneficial, right? When you're younger and you have older brothers to look up to and you can learn from them. But you have your brother that's a center back, so he needs to have ability with his feet. How do you rate your ability right now with your feet? Do you think it's something you still got to work on more and more and more for your age? How do you think it's looking right now?
I mean, of course, I need to work on it more. You know, but I need to work on everything more. You
Hmm.
know, I'm still a young goalie. I'm not Courtois level yet, and obviously that's where I want to be. So of course I need to work on it more. But I feel I'm very good with my feet. I'm very composed, very calm. And I feel I have good technique, and I think if you watch my games, you can see how calm I am. My presence on the field is with my feet. You know? And I think it's something that goes back to the earlier question that you talked about, SC Dow's developments with their goalkeepers with their feet. Since I was little, I always felt I was good with my feet, and I think it has been showing on the field.
Hmm.
Also, before I was a goalie, I was a striker.
That helps a little bit.
Yeah,
That helps
a
quite
little
a bit
bit.
actually. Because playing as a forward is when you have to be the best with your feet. Playing as a forward, right? You have to be good in tight spaces, quick decisions. So that most certainly helps a lot. Now, last but not least, you kind of touched upon a little bit how your goal is to be as the best as possible. You mentioned Courtois, the Belgium goalkeeper. What are your long-term goals or even short-term goals right now? Right? I mean, I would assume the short-term goals is to eventually in a near future break into a senior team, start become a starter. But long term, is your goal to go to Europe and play for a big league, big club, or you're just comfortable being a locked in starter for a club? That's where you want to be. And obviously, national team is obviously a goal. Play a World Cup. That you don't even have to say that. But what's your long term goals?
Well, I'll start with the short term ones. Obviously, break into the first team. You know, make myself a good presence. Be the starting goalkeeper for the World Cup, for the U20 World Cup, and then obviously Olympics.
Hmm.
And long term, I think it's what every young American or Mexican kid's dream is to be one of the star goalkeepers or star players over there across seas in Europe. I would love to obviously play in a big team, you know, one like a giant like Man United, which is my favorite team, where like Serie A
Mine
just
too.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, my whole room. You should see my
But
room.
wait, okay, we were not even going to talk about this. But how does an 18-year-old become a Manchester United fan? Because I'll explain to you. I became a United fan because I really started to watch soccer. I followed it, but when I was 7 in 2002, I watched the U.S. make it to the quarterfinals of the World Cup and Brazil win it. Was born in Brazil. And Manchester United signed Kleberson from Brazil, Cristiano Ronaldo at the time, and they were winning the Premier League, Champions League in '08, I believe. And I became a United fan. But you probably started to watch soccer heavily, what, 2000 and what, 14, 12,
Nah, 2009, 2010,
2010?
2000, 2009, I think.
So you were
I started
seven,
young.
seven.
I was 5.
So did you get to watch Ronaldo play for Manchester United?
Barely,
Barely. Yeah, so
barely.
you got the transition when Sir Alex was leaving, and then you suffered with us this entire decade. Um,
we
you're a true fan. You're a true fan.
yeah. I mean, since 2009, since Ronaldo was at United, not Madrid. Since he was at United, I've been a Man United fan. You should see my room. I have a 1998, 1999 David Beckham jersey from
Mhm.
whenever we won the treble. I have a couple of jerseys, a couple just badges, crest, everything. I'm a diehard United fan.
Yeah, they in 1999 when they won the Champions League, they played my Brazilian team in the FIFA Club World Cup final, Palmeiras, and they defeated them 1-0. Manchester United won the
Yeah.
Club World Cup in 1999 against Palmeiras. But I didn't know that. That caught me a little as a surprise. Now, before we go, do you want to quickly tell the story about how your brother had a fro, and then he that's why he decided to cut his hair short?
Yeah, I mean, of course I'll tell you, any day of the week. So before my brother Nico, he used to have a not his hair wouldn't come down like this. He would just have a big afro, just huge, just all the way up here, just puffy, everything. He loved it. And then after one game, he went to clear the ball because he's a center. They crossed it in. He went to clear the ball out. Since he had so much hair, the ball kind of just he headed it, but the ball just landed right there. Striker had an easy goal, and since then, I think just I think right after that game, he just buzz cut,
Yeah.
and since then he's just had short hair.
We got to get him to grow it longer too. We'll convince him one day, or maybe not. We're gonna be following him. But
Yeah,
Antonio, thank you very much for coming along. Just like your brothers, this was a very fun interview. Both of you are two great young men and very well spoken. You both made great interviews, and sometimes at a young age, it's a little tougher to be so well spoken on camera. But you two are both fantastic. Thank you very much, Antonio.
no, thank you for having me. Thank you. It was a pleasure, and I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank